Far away in the endless dark of the galaxy, there was no greater power than the Overlords. They ruled countless worlds with cold hands. Planets bowed before them. Civilizations obeyed without question. To resist was death. To the Overlords, humanity was nothing special. Just another race, weak and fragile, crawling on a small blue planet. They thought humans would bend the knee like everyone else. For a time, they were right. Human colonies on the edge of space kept quiet. Traders paid heavy taxes. Leaders stayed silent. The galaxy believed humans were harmless, but the galaxy was wrong. It began with whispers. A human fleet, small, hidden, forgotten, refused to surrender. When the Overlords sent their ships to demand obedience, the humans answered with fire. The first battle was quick. Overlord warships, proud and ancient, moved with confidence. They expected the humans to break. Instead, the humans fought with a fury no one expected. The news spread across the stars. The humans resist. At first, many laughed. How could one small species stand against the masters of the galaxy? But the laughter soon turned uneasy. Because the humans did not fight like the others. They did not beg. They did not run. They fought as if the stars themselves depended on them. In the council chambers of the Overlords, voices rose. "These creatures are dangerous," one commander said. "They are nothing," another replied. "We will crush them like insects." But still, doubt lingered. Why did the humans refuse? Why did they fight when others had surrendered so easily? The Overlords decided to make an example. They would not send small fleets anymore. They would send armies. They would burn human worlds until nothing remained. On Earth and across the colonies, fear spread. The humans knew what was coming. The skies would soon be filled with fire. No species had ever survived open war with the Overlords. Not one. But even in fear, there was something else. Something the Overlords did not understand. Hope. Human leaders gathered in secret. Soldiers trained in hidden stations. Ships were armed in silent docks. The message was clear: we will not bow. The first great clash came at the edge of the Perseus Arm, near a dying sun. Overlord ships entered the system, their hulls glowing like dark steel giants. Each ship carried weapons powerful enough to shatter moons. The human fleet was small, barely a fraction of their enemy's strength. Old ships patched with scraps, weapons weaker than the Overlords. But when the Overlords demanded surrender, the humans answered with silence. Then they opened fire. The battle raged across the void. Explosions lit the blackness like stars being born. Overlord ships were torn apart by desperate human attacks. Entire human squadrons sacrificed themselves, ramming into enemy vessels, detonating cores, refusing to give an inch. When the smoke cleared, the Overlords had won the system, but at a cost. They had lost more ships than expected. Their commanders, arrogant and cold, were shaken. For the first time in centuries, they had faced resistance that bled them. Across the galaxy, alien species watched, some in silence, some in awe, some in secret admiration. Humanity dares to resist? The whispers spread. No one had spoken words like these in 1,000 years. On hidden worlds, oppressed races listened carefully. If humans could fight, maybe they could too. The Overlords felt the danger of this thought. If the spark of rebellion spread, their empire could burn. So they made their decision. Humanity would not just be defeated. Humanity would be erased, but the humans did not stop. Every loss became a reason to fight harder. Every fallen soldier became a story, a symbol, a spark for the next battle. The galaxy watched the impossible unfold. A species once ignored now stood tall. A species once underestimated now burned with defiance. And deep within the darkness of space, in their hidden councils, the Overlords began to whisper to each other in fear. These humans, they are not like the others. That was the first spark. A single rebellion, a single refusal to bow, ignited the fire of war. It would grow. It would spread. And it would shake the stars themselves. Because the Overlords had made their greatest mistake. They had tried to break humanity. But instead, they had awakened it. The galaxy had seen rebellions before. They always ended the same way, crushed beneath the boots of the Overlords. But this time, something was different. This time, the rebels were human. The first spark of resistance had shocked the galaxy. The humans, once thought weak and unimportant, had destroyed Overlord ships and refused to surrender. It was supposed to be a warning battle, a quick victory for the Overlords. Instead, it became a story whispered across the stars. Other species asked the same question. Why do these humans fight when no one else dares? The Overlords asked it too, but their answer was always the same. They are fools. Their courage will not save them. It will only bring their end. So the Overlords prepared their response. They sent larger fleets, deadlier weapons, and crueler commanders. The orders were clear. Erase the humans before their defiance spreads. The humans knew what was coming. They had seen worlds burn. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. And yet, instead of bending the knee, they began to prepare. On hidden space stations, engineers worked day and night, patching broken ships, arming old vessels with whatever weapons they could find. Colonies turned into fortresses. Farmers became soldiers. Children learned how to run messages through underground tunnels. Humanity was small compared to the Overlords, but their spirit was not. They were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for power. They were fighting for survival, and survival makes even the weakest creature dangerous. The first great human stand came at the colony of Vera 3. It was a small mining world, rich in resources the Overlords wanted. A fleet of Overlord ships arrived, expecting an easy victory. The humans were outnumbered 3-1. Their ships were older, slower, weaker, but they did not run. They did not surrender. They fought. The battle over Vera 3 lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Human pilots flew like they had nothing to lose, because they didn't. They launched ambushes from asteroid fields. They turned mining ships into weapons, ramming into Overlord cruisers. Every loss they suffered only seemed to make them fight harder. In the end, Vera 3 fell. The humans could not hold it forever. The Overlords burned its cities and claimed the world, but the cost of victory was heavy. Too heavy. The Overlords had lost far more ships than they expected. Their commanders raged in disbelief. How could humans, such a young species, inflict this much damage? For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had seen something terrifying. The Overlords bleeding. Word spread fast. Traders carried the stories. Refugees whispered them in the shadows. Slaves on distant worlds passed the message in secret. The humans fight back. On Earth, leaders of the scattered human colonies met in secret councils. Every day the question was asked, can we survive? The answer was always the same. We must. One commander stood before them, his face hardened by battle. His words became the voice of the rebellion. We may fall. We may lose our worlds. But if we surrender now, we lose everything. The Overlords think we are weak. Let us show them what it means to be human. The council agreed. The war would not stop. The Overlords responded with fury. Fleet after fleet swept across human space. Cities were turned to ash. Colonies were torn apart. Families scattered among the stars. But with every attack, humans found a way to strike back. Small victories became great legends. A squadron of fighters destroying a battleship by luring it into a gravity well. A single Marine unit holding a city for weeks against an army. A captain who sacrificed his ship to save thousands of civilians. These stories burned brighter than any fire the Overlords unleashed. The galaxy watched. Other species, beaten down by centuries of Overlord rule, felt something they had long forgotten. Hope. If humans could fight, maybe they could too. The Overlords saw this danger. The rebellion was no longer just a military threat, it was an idea. And ideas, once lit, could not be easily destroyed. On a quiet night, deep in the ruins of Vera 3, a human soldier stood among the ashes and whispered to his comrades, "This is not the end. This is the beginning. They think we are weak. Let them believe it. We will show them our strength, one battle at a time." His words spread like fire. From soldier to soldier, from world to world. And so, humanity continued the fight, defiant, unbroken, a small spark growing into a flame that even the mightiest empire could not ignore. The Overlords looked upon the stars and realized the truth. This was no longer a simple rebellion. This was a war, and the humans had no intention of losing. The war burned brighter with every passing day. Humans fought with courage, defying all odds. Their ships, though small, struck with deadly precision. Their soldiers, though few, fought with a fire that made even seasoned overlord warriors uneasy. But wars are not won by courage alone, and the overlords knew this. Behind the blazing battles, shadows began to move. Not every alien was loyal to the overlords. Some had long despised their rule, living in silence and fear. Now, as humans resisted, whispers spread through the hidden corners of the galaxy. In one such corner, an alien commander broke the silence. He was not like the others. His name was whispered only in secret. Commander Xylan, once a loyal servant of the overlords, now disillusioned by their cruelty. He had watched humans fight, and in their defiance he saw something that stirred him. One night, through a coded transmission, he reached out to the humans. His message was brief, but chilling. The overlords are preparing something far worse than war. Trust me, or you will all burn. When the human council received the message, the chamber fell into silence. An overlord commander warning us? One leader scoffed. It must be a trap. Others were not so sure. The humans had seen too much death to dismiss anything so easily. One general leaned forward, eyes narrowed. If he speaks the truth, we need to know. If he lies, then we expose him. Still, doubt lingered. Could they trust a voice from the enemy? Meanwhile, humanity's battles grew bloodier. The overlords unleashed new weapons, vast orbital cannons capable of erasing entire cities in seconds. Human colonies fell one after another. Yet no matter how much fire the overlords rained down, the humans always found a way to fight back. It was as if every strike against them only made them stronger. And the galaxy noticed. Oppressed worlds whispered in awe. Traders risked their lives to smuggle supplies to human fleets. Even slaves, long broken by overlord rule, passed secret messages of human victories in hushed voices. But with admiration came danger. The overlords feared rebellion spreading beyond humanity. That fear made them desperate, and desperation made them cruel. In the shadows of space, Commander Xylan sent another warning. The overlords will unleash the scorching plan. Entire star systems will be burned. They will not stop with your fleets. They will erase your people, your homes, everything. The human council sat in stunned silence. Was it possible? Would the overlords go so far? History gave them the answer. Yes, the overlords had erased civilizations before. Entire species had been wiped out, their names lost to time. Humanity could be next, but again the question remained, could they trust Xylan? One night, in the dark halls of a hidden base, a small group of human officers met in secret. We should use him, one whispered. Even if it's a trap, information is power. Another shook his head. Or it could be our doom. What if he leads us into a slaughter? The debate grew heated, but before it ended, the decision was made. They would listen, carefully, cautiously, but they would listen. As the war raged on, betrayal lurked not only among the overlords, but within humanity itself. Some humans, broken by fear, began to question the rebellion. Quiet voices rose in the shadows. What if surrender is the only way to survive? The overlords knew this. They sent messages into human colonies, offering mercy to those who betrayed their leaders. Spies spread lies, rumors, doubts. The greatest danger was no longer only in the stars. It was also inside humanity's own ranks. The first sign came at the Battle of Luther's Gate. A fleet of human ships prepared for an ambush against the overlords. It was their most daring plan yet. But just as the battle began, the overlords appeared in perfect formation, ready for the trap. Someone had warned them. The ambush became a massacre. Hundreds of human ships were destroyed. Thousands of lives lost, and in the ruins of the battle, only one truth remained. There was a traitor among the humans. The galaxy trembled with uncertainty. Would humanity's defiance collapse from within, or would they rise above betrayal, stronger than before? In the dark of his ship, Commander Xylan sent one final message before disappearing into silence. The shadows are closing in. If you cannot find the traitor, humanity will not survive the storm to come. That night, across the broken fleets and burning colonies, the humans faced a terrifying truth. The enemy was no longer only the overlords. The enemy might be standing among them. And in the vast silence of space, the war took on a new face. Not just a battle of fleets, but a battle of trust, lies, and betrayal. The humans had seen betrayal. They had watched battles turn to slaughter because of whispers in the dark. But even betrayal was nothing compared to what was coming next. The overlords had grown tired of this war. They had crushed rebellions for centuries, and never before had they wasted so many fleets on such a small species. Humanity's defiance was beginning to inspire others, and that was something the overlords could not allow. So, they turned to a weapon older than fear itself. It began on the colony world of Karos. The skies above the planet were calm, painted with soft blue clouds. Children played in the fields, unaware of the storm gathering beyond the horizon. Then the Overlord fleet appeared. Hundreds of ships, their hulls black as night, drifted into orbit. They did not land. They did not give warnings. They simply fired. The skies lit up with fire. Entire cities turned to ash in moments. Towers crumbled. Oceans boiled. Mountains split. It was not war. It was extermination. When the fires faded, Karos was gone. A world of millions reduced to smoke and dust. The Overlords called it a message. The galaxy called it a massacre. But Karos was only the beginning. Soon other colonies fell the same way. A world burned in the east, another in the west. Wherever human life thrived, the Overlords brought fire from the skies. The humans called it the burning skies. Across Earth and the surviving colonies, fear spread like poison. Families huddled in bunkers, waiting for the glow of Overlord weapons. Leaders argued bitterly. Some demanded surrender to save what was left, while others screamed for vengeance. One commander stood before the council, his voice heavy with anger. They think fear will break us, but fear only feeds the fire. If they burn our skies, then we fight in the ashes. His words struck deep. The council knew the truth. Humanity was cornered. They could surrender and vanish into chains, or they could fight and risk extinction. They chose to fight. On the front lines, human soldiers watched worlds die and swore vengeance. A pilot, watching Karos burn from orbit, whispered to his crew, "If the skies burn, then let them burn for the Overlords too." He dove his battered fighter into an enemy cruiser, detonating his ship in a blaze that shattered the alien vessel. His sacrifice became legend, retold across the fleets. Each death, each burning world, became fuel for humanity's rage. But even rage could not erase the losses. Families were torn apart. Children were orphaned. Refugees fled through dangerous star lanes, chased by Overlord patrols. Entire cultures within humanity's colonies disappeared overnight. The burning skies were not just killing people, they were killing hope. And that was exactly what the Overlords wanted. Yet, in the darkness, something unexpected happened. Other species, long silent under Overlord rule, began to stir. They saw the skies burn. They saw humans refuse to break. And some whispered, "If humanity still fights, why can't we?" Small groups of rebels inspired by human defiance began to rise in secret. They sabotaged Overlord supply lines. They passed stolen data to human commanders. Quiet acts of resistance spread like sparks in the night. The Overlords noticed, and their fear grew. Then came the most terrible strike yet. The Overlords gathered their largest fleet and targeted the jewel of human space, the colony of Auron. Auron was more than a colony. It was a beacon, a thriving world, home to millions, filled with industry and culture. When the fleet arrived, the humans knew what was coming. Civilians flooded into bunkers. Soldiers prepared defenses. The human navy gathered every ship it could spare to protect the planet. The battle was like nothing seen before. For days, the skies above Auron burned. Overlord cruisers rained fire across the surface, while human ships rose in desperate defense. Pilots screamed into the void as they fell one by one. Entire squadrons were wiped out in minutes. Yet the humans refused to yield. They launched counterattacks, ramming enemy warships, detonating fuel stations, even dragging Overlord ships into the planet's atmosphere to burn with them. The cost was terrible. Millions of lives lost. Entire cities erased. But when the smoke cleared, something unthinkable had happened. The humans had not been erased. Auron still stood. The Overlords were furious. The burning skies had destroyed worlds, but humanity still lived, still fought, still defied. And in that moment, the galaxy saw a truth no one could ignore. The Overlords could burn planets, but they could not burn away humanity's spirit. But as the humans celebrated their survival, a shadow remained. Among the wreckage of Auron, a coded signal was intercepted. It carried information only the highest human commanders could know. The message had been sent to the Overlords. Before the battle began, the traitor was still out there. And while humanity fought to survive the fire, betrayal waited in the shadows, ready to strike again. The burning skies had scarred humanity. Worlds were gone. Millions were dead. But the Overlords had failed to break the human spirit. Instead, their fire had only hardened it. Still, humanity knew the truth. Courage alone would not win this war. Against fleets larger than nations, against weapons that shattered planets, bravery could only carry them so far. They needed something more. They needed an edge. It came from an unlikely place, far from the main warfront. Explorers searching for a refugee route stumbled across a dying world, a barren, forgotten planet, its surface cracked and silent. At first, it seemed worthless. No life, no resources, just dust and ruins. But beneath its broken crust, buried deep within endless caverns, they found something ancient. Massive structures, not human, not Overlord. Machines older than memory, carved with symbols no one could read. At the heart of the ruins lay a weapon, silent, sleeping, waiting. When the humans brought word of their discovery, the council gathered in secret. Engineers studied the device. Scientists whispered of its power. Commanders argued about its danger. No one knew who had built it. No one knew why it had been left behind. But one thing was certain. It could change everything. The device was more than a weapon. It was a star forge, capable of bending energy on a scale humans had never seen. With it, a single ship could destroy an entire fleet, but it was unstable, dangerous. A scientist warned, if we use it, we may win battles. But we may also destroy ourselves. A commander replied, if we do nothing, we will be destroyed anyway. The debate was fierce. Fear clashed with desperation. In the end, the decision was made. Humanity would risk everything. The weapon would be used. Word of the discovery could not stay hidden for long. Spies carried whispers into the void. And somewhere in the halls of the Overlords, the truth reached their ears. Humans had found something that could threaten even them. The Overlords moved quickly. They sent fleets racing toward the ruined world. Their mission: destroy the weapon before humanity could wield it. On the front lines, the tension was unbearable. The human fleet stationed at the dying world was small. Old cruisers, weary soldiers. They knew they could not stop the full force of the Overlords, but they had to buy time. Every hour mattered. Every minute allowed scientists to unlock another secret of the weapon. So, the humans stood their ground. The first Overlord ships arrived like shadows in the dark. Their cannons lit the skies, tearing through human defenses. But the humans fought back with everything they had. They mined the asteroid fields. They dragged enemy cruisers into the planet's gravity. They sacrificed ships, crews, and entire stations, all to delay the inevitable. The battle was chaos. Explosions tearing across the void, screams echoing in broken comms, fire consuming the skies. Still, the humans held. Still, they endured. Inside the caverns below, scientists worked with frantic hands. The weapon hummed with a strange, alien energy, as if it were alive. One scientist whispered in awe, "It feels like it wants to be used." But before they could finish, alarms blared. The Overlords had broken through the fleet. Their ships descended toward the surface. Time had run out. In desperation, the human commanders gave the order. The weapon would be activated, ready or not. The ground trembled. The caverns shook. Energy roared through the ruins like thunder. Lights blazed across the machine's surface, symbols glowing for the first time in ages. Above, the sky tore open. A single pulse of light erupted from the planet, cutting through the void like a blade. Entire Overlord cruisers vanished in the blast, torn apart in an instant. For the first time in the war, the Overlords fled. The battlefield fell silent. Humans stared at the wreckage, stunned by what they had unleashed. The impossible had happened. The Overlords, masters of the galaxy, had turned and run. The galaxy whispered a new truth. The humans have found a weapon, but victory came with fear. The weapon was unstable. Already its energy began to tear at the planet's core. The scientists warned, if we continued to use it, it could destroy not only the enemy, but us. The Council faced a terrible choice. Dare to wield the weapon and risk everything, or hide it and watch the Overlords crush them slowly? And somewhere hidden in the shadows, the traitor listened. The Overlords now knew the humans had a weapon that could threaten their rule. They would stop at nothing to destroy it. The galaxy had changed. The war was no longer just survival. It was about control of the most dangerous weapon in history. The weapon had changed everything. One pulse of its strange, ancient power had shattered Overlord fleets and forced their retreat. For the first time, humanity had struck true fear into the galaxy's masters. But power comes with a price. And in the shadows, betrayal waited. On Earth, the Council celebrated in secret. Leaders spoke with fire in their voices, proud that humanity had survived the burning skies. Soldiers across the colonies cheered the impossible victory. Yet, not all were joyful. The scientists who had awakened the weapon warned of danger. "This forge is unstable," one said. "It does not obey us. It obeys its own design. One mistake, and it could destroy not just fleets, but entire stars." The Council argued for hours. Some wanted to hide the weapon. Some wanted to use it in every battle. And in the middle of this debate, a quiet figure listened, a traitor. The betrayal was not yet clear, but whispers had already reached Overlord ears. They knew where the weapon was hidden. They knew how it worked. Such knowledge could only have come from within. While the Council argued, a message arrived from the shadows of space. Commander Xylan, the alien defector who had warned humanity once before. His voice, low and urgent, filled the chamber. "The Overlords are not only afraid of your weapon. They are furious. They will throw everything they have against you now. And beware, your greatest danger is not their fleets. It is among you." The words chilled the chamber. Some dismissed him. Why should we trust an enemy? But others remembered his past warnings, all of which had proven true. Still, even Xylan did not know who the traitor was. The truth came at the next great battle. The Overlords launched a massive assault near the Orion Line, a cluster of human colonies bound together for defense. Humanity's fleets gathered to protect them, carrying with them fragments of the ancient weapon's power. The battle began with fire and fury. Human ships, though battered, struck with new confidence. Overlord cruisers thundered in reply. For a moment, it seemed humanity might hold the line. Then the trap was sprung. The Overlords moved with precision, far too precise. They knew the exact locations of human defenses. They knew the timing of every strike. They knew where the weapon was hidden. The humans were ambushed, their fleets torn apart. Colonies burned before their eyes. The Council was horrified. Only one explanation was possible. Someone had told them. The search for the traitor began. Commanders accused each other, leaders whispered in private. Soldiers looked at their officers with suspicion, and then the truth came. It was not a soldier. It was not a commander. It was one of their own counselors, a man who had sat among them for years, speaking of peace while secretly sending information to the Overlords. When confronted, he did not deny it. "They are too strong," he spat. "We are fools to resist. The Overlords offered me life, while you only offered death. His betrayal had cost millions of lives. Entire worlds were lost because of his whispers. The council was shaken. Trust was broken. If one of their own could betray them, who else might be a traitor? The people were furious. Crowds demanded punishment. Soldiers spoke of vengeance. Some even wondered if the rebellion itself could survive such betrayal. But amid the anger, something deeper stirred. One commander stood before the fleet and declared, "Yes, we have traitors. Yes, we have been wounded. But betrayal does not break us. It strengthens us. Every life lost, every world burned is another reason to fight. If the Overlords believe we will surrender, then let them see what happens when humanity rises from betrayal stronger than before." The soldiers roared in answer. Still, the damage was done. The Overlords now knew about the weapon. They would not stop until it was destroyed. And worse, the human fleets were scattered and broken. Their forces were smaller than ever. The war was reaching its most dangerous stage. That night, as the humans mourned their dead, another message came from Commander Xylan. "The Overlords fear you more than you know. They speak of humanity in their councils with trembling voices. Long ago, they tried to erase your kind before you even left your homeworld. They failed. That is why they fear you now. They know what you might become." The humans listened in silence. Destiny? A prophecy? Could it be true? If Xylan was right, then this war was not just about survival. It was about what humanity was meant to be. And as the message ended, sensors lit up. Another fleet. Larger than any before. Thousands of ships bearing down on human space. The Overlords were coming. The final storm was about to begin. The galaxy had never seen such a fleet. From the darkness of space, thousands of Overlord warships gathered like a storm of steel. Their engines burned red, their weapons charged with deadly light. This was not just another battle. This was their final strike, meant to erase humanity forever. The humans watched from their smaller ships. Their fleets were scattered, their colonies scarred, their people weary from endless war. But now, there was no choice left. It was victory or extinction. The council called every ship, every fighter, every soldier. From Earth to the far colonies, men and women boarded vessels with grim determination. Old freighters were armed, damaged ships patched, even civilians volunteered. Humanity had no great numbers, but it had something else. Resolve. The chosen battlefield was near a dying star. Its light flickered, weak and red, casting long shadows across space. Commanders believed the unstable star could be used against the enemy if they were clever enough. It was here humanity would make its final stand. Before the battle, silence ruled the human fleet. Soldiers strapped themselves into cockpits, staring at photos of loved ones. Engineers whispered prayers. Commanders gave short, sharp orders, their voices steady even as fear pressed on their hearts. And in the middle of this silence, one captain spoke to all fleets. "We are the last wall between freedom and slavery. The Overlords believe they can crush us. They believe humans are weak. Let us show them that they are wrong. Let us show them that no matter how small, no matter how scarred, humanity will fight until the stars themselves go dark." The fleet answered with a single roar. "For humanity!" The battle began. The Overlords struck first, their massive cannons tearing through human defenses. Whole squadrons vanished in blinding flashes. The sky turned into a storm of fire. But the humans did not break. Small ships darted between the giants, striking weak points. Ambushes were sprung from asteroid fields. Fighters sacrificed themselves to shield the carriers. The Overlords had numbers, but the humans had fury. Hours passed. Space was filled with wreckage and flame. Near the heart of the battle, humanity's secret weapon prepared to fire once more. The unstable alien forge hummed with dangerous energy. Scientists worked frantically, their hands shaking. "If this fails," one whispered, "the star itself could collapse." Still, they continued, because failure meant the end. On the Overlord flagship, their supreme commander watched with cold eyes. "Humans," he hissed. "They burn like insects, yet they refuse to die. End this. Tear them apart. Leave nothing." His fleet surged forward, overwhelming the human lines. One by one, human ships began to fall back toward the dying star. To the Overlords, it looked like retreat. To humanity, it was the plan. The final trap was set. As the Overlords closed in, human commanders gave the order. Their fleets formed a wall near the star's unstable edge. The forge weapon roared to life, its energy blasting directly into the star. The dying sun screamed. Its surface boiled, waves of fire exploding outward. Gravity twisted. Space itself shook. The Overlords had walked into the heart of a trap. For a moment, chaos reigned. Their massive ships were pulled toward the star, their formations broken. Humans struck with everything they had left, torpedoes, cannons, even ramming their ships into the enemy. The battlefield became a graveyard of steel. And yet, even in chaos, the Overlords endured. Their flagship advanced, tearing through human lines. In the middle of the storm, Commander Xylan fought alongside humanity. His alien cruiser shielded a human carrier, saving thousands of lives. But even he knew the truth. "This is not enough," he whispered. "They will not fall unless—" His voice trailed. His gaze turned to the forge weapon, still glowing, unstable, trembling with deadly energy. The choice was clear. To unleash it fully could destroy not only the Overlords, but also humanity itself. On the human flagship, the Council argued. "If we use it, we all die. If we don't, we are already dead." Every second lost meant more ships burning, more lives gone. The commander clenched his fists, his voice breaking through the chaos. "We must choose, life under chains, or freedom in fire." At that moment, the Overlord flagship charged its superweapon. One blast would end humanity forever. The humans had seconds. The forge pulsed. The dying star screamed louder. The Council gave the order, "Fire it!" The weapon unleashed its full power. The star tore open. Light brighter than 1,000 suns erupted, swallowing fleets whole. Overlord warships shattered. Human ships vanished in the blaze. Space itself trembled with the force of the explosion, and in that final moment, no one knew who would survive. Silence. That was all that remained after the weapon's fire. The dying star had exploded in a storm of light. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to burn. Entire fleets, human and Overlord, were swallowed in fire. Ships that had carried thousands of lives were now only dust drifting in space. And then, silence, no sound, no movement, only wreckage, scattered like bones around the corpse of a star. Inside the ruins, a handful of human ships still floated. Their hulls were cracked, their engines failing, but they were alive. The humans who crawled from the wreckage stared out at the void. What they saw stole their breath. The Overlord fleet was gone. Where once thousands of enemy warships had stood, only twisted fragments remained. Their mighty flagship, their endless armies, all had been erased in the firestorm. The Overlords, the masters of the galaxy, had been defeated. On the human flagship, alarms screamed. Systems flickered, fires burned, but survivors clung to their posts. A young officer whispered, her voice trembling, Did we win?" No one answered at first. The survivors looked at each other, dazed, unable to believe what their eyes showed them. And then, slowly, a smile spread across the commander's scarred face. "Yes," he said. "We won," the news spread across the fleet. From broken cruisers to battered fighters, voices rose in disbelief, then in triumph. Cheers echoed through damaged halls. Tears streamed down tired faces. Soldiers embraced, engineers fell to their knees in relief, and civilians on faraway colonies shouted when the message finally reached them. For the first time in history, humanity had stood against the Overlords and prevailed. But victory was not without cost. Half the human fleet was gone. Entire colonies had been destroyed before the final battle. Millions of lives had been lost in the fire, and the forge weapon, the tool that had given humanity victory, was gone too. It had burned itself out in the explosion, leaving only silence where its power had once been. Humanity had survived, but it had paid a heavy price. The galaxy, however, was watching. Other species, long enslaved by the Overlords, had seen the impossible. They had seen fragile humans rise against the rulers of the stars and win. Whispers spread from system to system. "If humans can fight, So can we. Across the galaxy, sparks of rebellion began to ignite. Chains rattled. Old rulers trembled. The war had not only saved humanity, it had changed the fate of countless worlds. Commander Xylin, scarred but alive, stood before the human council. "You do not understand," he said softly. "The Overlords believed themselves eternal. To see them fall, this will echo through every star system. You have broken the unbreakable. You are no longer just another species. You are the fire that will reshape the galaxy." The council sat in silence, absorbing his words. For the first time, humanity was not weak, not small, not prey. They were something far greater, yet even in triumph, shadows remained. The Overlords were not gone forever. Somewhere in the farthest reaches of space, survivors of their empire would rebuild. They would not forget what humanity had done. They would hunger for revenge, and humanity itself was wounded. Its fleets needed rebuilding. Its people needed healing. And the galaxy, now shaken, might not always see humans as saviors. Some might see them as a new threat. The future was uncertain, but one truth was clear. Nothing would ever be the same. As the survivors drifted near the ruins of the star, one soldier recorded a simple message to Earth. "We stood where no one thought we could. We faced the Overlords, and we did not bow. We are hurt. We are scarred. But we are free, and freedom, once lit, can never be put out." This was not just a battle. It changed the stars forever. The camera panned across the wreckage of ships, glowing against the black void of space. Ashes of war. Seeds of a new beginning. Humanity had entered the galaxy as prey. Now it stood as something far greater. Proof that even the smallest flame could burn brighter than empires. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was undeniable. The story of humanity had only just begun.